Hello, my name is David Martin. I'm a data center expert from Cisco Systems. And today I'm going to be talking about data center application management. Joining me today is Lee McChesney, the data center lead from NetSync, one of our strongest data center partners.
Thanks for having me, Dave. You know, a lot of our customers are struggling with this concept of the data center no longer being within the bounds of their four walls. Applications are extending out to the cloud. They may exist in multiple clouds. And so they're struggling with how to handle networking when the data center is no longer the center for their data. So how does ACI help kind of address some of that?
It's far more complicated than you think, Lee. Let's talk about where the data center has been migrating to. Apart from traditional on-prem data center, which we'll call private cloud, there's also a mixture of both public and hybrid cloud offerings. Beyond that, we've got all kinds of new and interesting places where data can reside today, from co-location facilities to enterprise edge. Some other things that are being driven more recently are even telco edge and IoT edge, all of which could be interesting and new places where data can reside and where data may have to be processed locally. So the data center is anything but centered anymore.
That's right. You know, we start to see all these different locations for where the data is and how we interconnect those networks, and all of a sudden things become very difficult to understand the flow of traffic within those environments, how they interoperate and how they communicate. So how can Cisco help us with that?
Well, I've got one word for you, and I anticipate your response already. It's called automation. Now, I'm aware that a lot of customers have gone through a variety of different automation solutions in the past, and some of them have not always been as promised. We've been delivering an application-based automation system called ACI for the better part of a decade. The one thing that we decided about 10 years ago was that trying to create rules based upon the network infrastructure simply wasn't going to scale. Applications can reside at any one of these locations. That means that we've got to tie individual policies and individual services to the applications themselves. That way, no matter where the application resides, no matter where the users that are using the application reside, as long as they're all members of a similar contract, all of these operating environments are going to be supported by ACI.
It sounds like a pretty big leap for our traditional network engineers that are out there. You know, we're going from a VLAN-based segmentation within the network to now trying to logically define how the network operates based on application. So how do we get from one place to the other?
It's a good question. ACI has always involved a software overlay on top of your existing data center infrastructure, and that's a mouthful. But what it essentially means is that your traditional data center networking doesn't go away. Data center Ethernet and TCP/IP are still the underlay of everything that we're doing. What we're simply saying is that with this solutions, as applications are evolving, as operations are getting more distributed, and multi-cloud governments and management are becoming a new reality, what we need is a system that enables you and your customers to get away from the manual reconfiguration of hardware every single time a change is made inside of the data center. Data center is not like campus. Once a campus network is installed, things are fairly static unless you're significantly shifting a room or a floor or even a building. In the data center, virtual machines can migrate between hypervisors. Full application loads can be taken from a legacy on-prem private cloud to a public cloud on any given day. Right. What we need is a system that enables a smart environment for your applications to be the driver and to give you and your customers time back in your day.
Yeah, so how do we handle that complexity? How do we handle how, you know, as applications move around and maybe come from on-prem into the cloud, how do we start giving tools to our network operators and maybe even our application developers to better handle those workloads?
Public cloud has set the new bar. And I'll say this, if you get onto Amazon today, you can have a virtual machine with basic configuration and basic services up and running in a few minutes. We need to be able to have similar operational excellence. It needs to be easy, it needs to be multi-cloud, and it needs to be able to handle all of those service insertions. I'll ask you a question. When in a data center environment do we find the most security vulnerabilities today?
Boy, that happens usually when there's human intervention, where maybe a team needs to deploy an application or move an application to another area within their data center, and maybe they do it on their own without
Maybe not following the published security policy.
Perhaps. I mean, none of our customers would do that, but you know, maybe they move it and they forget to make the other adjustments that are required to secure the application or make sure that that application is still being monitored properly.
Instantiating a new virtual machine without turning on security services remains the biggest vulnerability inside of data centers, whether on-prem or off-prem cloud today. What we want to do is be able to have a system that enables you the ability to be able to have governance around those security policies without, again, having to have that manual lift every single time that a new VM is created.
Okay, I'm starting to see the vision.
So a lot of different things are handled here. You have people calling you up all the time saying, I need this many virtual machines, but they also need to have some DR facility, and I need cloud. Having best practices, once you've established these processes once, you can have the comfort to know that with the single click of a button, all of these heavy lifts can start to happen automatically. Now, for organizations that might have some apprehension to automation based upon some bad experiences in the past, not that anyone's ever had bad experiences with an automation solution, the one thing that I can say is everyone here is using scripting of some kind. Absolutely. If you're using a script today, understand that a script is a manual process fixing another manual process. It's not a living, breathing thing, and as you're going to continue to make changes, your scripts are going to have to continue to be updated. If you're scripting today, you've already taken the first step in a much larger process. What we want to simply say is that there's an easier way to put a system in place that enables all of this.
Okay.
So challenges for growth. How do you grow with constrained budgets? How do you maintain continuity and security in a hybrid environment? You might be expanding globally. All of these solutions can be addressed by best practices through a fully automated system. The nice thing about ACI is that ACI doesn't just focus on day zero. Day zero is important because day zero is when the boxes get dropped off on the piece. What we want to say is that as we move forward, these solutions require day one and day two assurance. Now, NetSync, as a company, offers all kinds of interesting and relative services to be able to make these things happen. But the tools that we leave behind enable your customers to take what you've put in place and to be able to operate it on an ongoing basis.
That's right, Dave. You know, we have deployed countless ACI networks for our customers so that they are enabled to keep up with the business demands that they're starting to face now. And just like you're talking about, we try to come in and help our customers really address not only that day zero, but also that day one and day two portions of managing that infrastructure. We want to make sure that our customers are comfortable in the new environment, that they know how to use it, and that they know how to configure and operate and deploy this infrastructure moving down the road.
Absolutely. And then last but not least, as we get into day two, what we really want to do is get into the planning stages. ACI and the tools associated with it not only help you manage and automate the data centers that you're operating in today, they help you with planning and pre-provisioning. Do a what-if model to make sure that what you're about to put into place will actually work before you do it. Also, be able to gain insight into mean time to recovery. As we start to talk about things like sustainability and total cost of ownership, understanding what the ongoing operational expenses of the day-to-day data center, I think, are going to become more and more important,
Absolutely.
especially as we're starting to get more and more complex.
You know, in complex environments, it's important for the network operator to be assured that the changes that they're being asked to make or that they're planning to make are actually going to achieve what they want or intend the network to do. And so that network assurance component is critical in making sure that those changes are done and that they actually achieve what they originally intended to.
The thing I'd like to come back with on this is that ACI can operate in any cloud for any application on any platform anywhere. What we're enabling is a living and breathing system. And it not only integrates with our own technologies, it also integrates with a wide ecosystem of partners. Over 100 companies today provide
shrink-wrapped applications and services that can be integrated directly into this. I'll give an example. In AWS, if you bring up a virtual machine and you want to tie a firewall service or a server load balancing service, Amazon provides those services directly from that at a cost. Yeah. But those services are probably not best of breed. If you have a specific firewall, let's say the next generation firewall application from Cisco that can be downloaded directly off of the marketplace, you're able to inject that level of enterprise class firewall, but also automate it from this system, because if it joins the same contract as your application and your application users, service chaining can now be applied, not just to the services that the cloud is offering, but also to a wide array of companies, and not just Cisco. If you've decided that you want to use applications from other vendors, we have a wide portfolio, so the data center can be as diverse as you need it to be.
That's great, because a lot of our network operators don't always have a say in what the firewall is or what a load balancer is. Other teams, make that choice and selection, but it's great to hear that we're able to integrate those different components into the ACI.
Absolutely. Lee, I think the best way to wrap up would be to talk about the 3 business drivers that ACI is talking about: optimizing the network, protecting the business, and acceleration to multi-cloud. As we talked about before, ACI is going to be injectable into any of the places where your application is going to need to reside: public cloud, private cloud, or any of the new models. But let's focus on optimizing the network. 40% of operational processes will be self-healing or automated going forward. The journey to automation isn't beginning. The journey to automation is here. If you are still doing manual reconfigurations along the line, you are falling behind and you're never going to catch up. So as we're looking at this, I think the future requires that we look at something that is really going to be focused on the optimization of these new operating models, not just the connectivity to them. We also want to look at protecting your business. It takes an average of almost 200 days for an organization to recover from a full-blown security threat. We've got to help our security brethren get a little faster to the detection and get much better at locking down data center resources. We're the crown jewels. We're what everyone is coming after. The application is the target vector. Right. If this is where security is still leaving a threat, this is where we need to be able to interject this. There's too little visibility. The attack surface is too broad. We've got to have something in place that helps governance. And then last but not least, I think it's important for us to accelerate multi-cloud. Again, people are asking whether Cisco is afraid of the journey to cloud. We're not afraid of the journey to cloud. We embrace it. And the tools that we're giving you today are only going to make that journey a little bit easier. As you're talking with your customers about the journey to multi-cloud, what do you think you're hearing most?
So the thing that we hear the most is just how difficult it is for our customers to connect everything, to get all the pieces connected and have the visibility that they're accustomed to in the data center, and be able to really monitor, manage it, and maintain it across all the various different cloud operating models.
So what we're talking about is an automation system that enables you the ability to have a best practice and best deployment guideline across any of these wide and disparate models today. Lee, thank you for letting me come and talk to you about this today.
Dave, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.